Hi, this is Michael P. Coleman, Content Director for Brother Be Well. Thanking you for checking out this series, this trauma and healing series brought to you by Blue Shield of California's Blue Sky Initiative.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Hi, I'm Michael P. Coleman, Content Director for Brother Be Well. Today, in one of a series of Brother Be Well conversations on trauma and healing made possible by the support of Blue Shield of California's Blue Sky Initiative, we're walking through the development of a self care regimen. It's a critical component for anyone looking to heal from trauma. There's nobody better for this conversation than my buddy Julio Cruz. He's our Brother Be Well clinical advisor for the day. He's also an integrated behavioral health specialist. Julio, what's up? Welcome back to Brother Be Well.
Hey Mike, how you doing? It's good to be here.
Really, really good to see you. Really good to see you. Let's talk about self-care, man. Let's jump right on into it. From your perspective, why is self-care rather, so vital, particularly as we discuss healing from trauma?
I think that there's nobody who knows you better than yourself, right? So I can try to guess what you need, what will make you feel better, what uh, what is happening with you. But the reality is that there is no better expert in your life than yourself. So it is important for me to get to know what tickles me, what is happening with me, what I need to feel better, what I need to not only have self-care but wellness, right? The self-care when I realize something is happening and I need to take action into it. But then how am I going to practice some wellness in my life? I always think about like self-care connected to wellness, kind of like when I go to the doctor because something's happening and he tells me you're going to take these pills for 7 days. And then once you're finished with the pills, I want to make sure that you are eating enough fruits and vegetables, go for a walk, make sure that you keep hydrated, rest. So it is important to have self-care and wellness in our lives so we can maintain healthy, well-balanced spirit.
Really beautifully put, beautifully put. In addition to people like you, Julio, there's a lot of resources online to give us their own takes on self-care. We at Brother Be Well have done the best we can to sift through all of that or the best of that and give you that information right on our website, brotherbewell.com. According to one of those websites, moderntherapy.online, types of self-care can be clustered into 8 different silos: physical, psychological, emotional, social, professional, environmental, spiritual, and financial. As Brother Be Well is primarily focused on mental care, I want to first touch on psychological self care, which I think could supplement work with a mental health clinician. If I'm right about that, Julio, give us a few examples of what psychological self care looks like.
Absolutely. I think that there's different aspects that we can address when thinking about psychological self-care, right? As you mentioned, connecting to a counselor, connecting to a life coach, having somebody that we know that they're going to be objective when they're listening to our things, and have an open mind that, I think that sometimes we think about a therapist or a counselor as somebody who's going to tell us this is what you need to change in your life, but they're just a conduit to be able to bounce back ideas. And as I said, you're the expert in your life. And sometimes when we express what is happening, we come with this light that goes like, oh my God, this is what I need to do, and have that space. But also, for psychological self care, you can do things like what everybody's doing right now, sharing this space with us, listening to podcasts, right? Reading a book, trying to learn a new skill, maintaining our mind agile, making sure that we incorporate different practices. I think that within the different pillars of self care, they're so interconnected that some of them we may have to repeat, like practicing mindfulness, having a moment to meditate. Those are part of also of the psychological self care.
So many of them in there and so important. And I appreciate you adding listening to a podcast or reading a book. Those are people don't think of those right away as psychological self care, but if they kind of take you out of, whatever the trials of the moment or the day might be, those are absolutely examples of self care. Really appreciate you mentioning those, Julio. Let's now touch on emotional self care. If you could give us a few behaviors, if you don't mind, or practices that someone can employ to support their own emotional state.
Oh, absolutely. I think that as I'm engaged with my therapist, I know that I see him once a month or once every other month. And it is very important for me to have a space where I can express what I'm feeling, my emotions, what is coming to my mind, what is troubling. I personally love journaling. I have an amazing journaling book that has like different aspects and touches actually in the different columns. So I can be like, what am I doing at work to take care of myself? How am I scheduling time for myself? How am I improving my physical health? How do I learn to love myself? And part of that is utilizing affirmations and mantras, do meditation, practicing gratitude. I think that that's something that for emotional self care is very important. I think that I usually have an exercise when I talk to people about emotional self care. And I said, tell me 10 things that you don't like about yourself. And everybody's so quick to come up with those 10 things you don't like about yourself. And then I said, tell me 5 things that are amazing about you. And people have so much trouble coming up with half of those things. You can come up with 10 things you don't like and you think you are not good at, but coming up with 5 is so hard because we are trained to look at what we're doing wrong and not recognize what we're doing well. And recognizing the gifts and the talents and the blessings we have in life are part of the self-care for our emotional side. So when I'm not feeling well, I can go like, you know what? I'm a very good listener. I'm compassionate. I'm caring. I'm a good friend. I'm a good boss, whatever that is.
That's so powerful, Julio. And you just made sense of a conversation that I had just a couple of days ago with a friend of mine where I couldn't figure out why I was having the reaction. You're right. We're trained to talk about and think about the things that we're not good at. We're not so trained to talk about the things that we are good at. And more importantly, tell ourselves that we're good at those things. So that's some really powerful tips that you gave us right there. I really appreciate it. Social self care, let's talk about that. It's described as having a supportive group and network of relationships around you that you can trust and turn to. You and I have a whole Brother Be Well podcast episode on developing a self care network. So, briefly for this talk, if you would touch on the importance of developing that strong support circle and give us just a little teaser. Don't give it all away because we want people to check out that video, but give us a little teaser about that support network podcast that we put together earlier.
We are social creatures. I want to start with that. We need the company of others. I talk about having talents and recognizing those talents that you have. So you don't bring everything to the table. I always believe that, in the infinite wisdom of the universe, creator, God, whichever way you want to call it, we are not given every single tool. We are given some gifts, and other people have others that complement us. But with that said, also is very important to recognize out of all those people that we interact with, who are the positive people in our lives, who are the healthy relationships, and recognizing that, there is a very important part of my support group when it comes to social parts is my friends who now a lot of them, I consider my family of choice. And also being able to take out some of the people that I know are toxic or not healthy in my life. That's part of the social self care. And understanding that just because somebody has been in your life for years, whether it's a family member or somebody that you know since you were in high school or elementary school, whatever it is, doesn't mean they have to stay. So making sure you have healthy people around you who recognize what you bring. One of the exercises I have is I look at my friends like mirrors, right? So when I look at them and when I talk to them and the way they talk about me or the way they treat me, I'm like, do I like this reflection? Because sometimes our friends are the reflection of what they see in us. So I'm like, am I happy with what they are seeing? Do I have to do something to improve myself so I can be a better friend, so I can improve their social network? Or is it somebody who's not recognizing anything that I bring to the table? And I had to make sure that that mirror is not in my house anymore.
Well, love it. Love that analogy. Get rid of that mirror. If it's not reflecting the right way, get rid of that mirror, Julio. Powerful. Let's talk about professional self care. It involves sharing your strengths and gifts, having clear professional boundaries, and living your purpose. Can you give us a few examples of effective professional self care practices?
I think that one of the things that I had a very hard time for a long time was to understand that I don't have to like everybody that I work with. I have to be respectful. I have to be professional. I have to collaborate. But as it is, as we're talking about social network, we have people in our life, in our families, that can be toxic, we don't like. And those are people that we either chose or we grew up with. When you're thinking about your work environment, it was a group of people who were placed together, hopefully, that we have a mind like for where we want to go. But we all come with different culture, experiences, backgrounds. Some of us have trauma that is intergenerational trauma and all those things. And having to match all those personalities within a work environment can be very difficult, right? So I come with the mindset to my work that I just have to make sure that I'm professional, respectful, and I take care of myself. That means by law, I have a couple of breaks a day and I have a lunch and making sure that I walk away from my computer when I have those breaks. That when I'm eating my lunch, like my daily routine, I have lunch and then I dedicate 10 minutes to do meditation. I do a guided meditation where I just sit down away from everything and I have the opportunity to take care of myself. I know that not everybody has the opportunity to have an office or a space where they can be away, but walk outside your work. Go for a quick walk. Make sure that you have clear boundaries about this. This is a contract that we have with a place, right? Where I contracted myself to work for X amount of hours a day, X amount of days a week, and I'm gonna give them my 100% for the time that I said that I would, but I also deserve to be treated with respect, dignity, and make sure that I also take care of myself while I'm at work.
You read my mind, my friend, because you don't remember. You said that to me in a whole different context about a year ago. And I never forgot those words, Julio. When you described for me, you used the word rent, I think. You said, I'm renting myself out for a set period of hours. And once we're done, we're done. And that doesn't mean evenings and that doesn't mean, at the crack of dawn on a Saturday or whatever. And that just was really powerful to me. And that's when I began to realize that I've got to do better at setting those professional boundaries. I think sometimes if our work means a lot to us, it's easy to let it bleed into the personal life. And then before you know it, you're working 12, 14, 16-hour days regularly. We all have to do that occasionally, or some of us have to do it occasionally, but it's not healthy to do it all of the time. So thank you for helping me with that. Totally, way before we even conceived this as a podcast. Really appreciate that. Let's take a look at for those of us who are in service related industries. I've alluded to it a little bit, and a lot of people of color are in those types of professions. Setting professional boundaries like we're talking about can be really challenging. Additionally, after having experienced trauma, that often I understand can leave you feeling hopeless. The ability to set your own boundaries and see them respected can be really, really critical, essential almost. Can you please walk us through some concrete ways in which you've been able to set those boundaries and just be very clear and steadfast and they're non-negotiable, Julio? It's really powerful. I'd like you to kind of impart some of that knowledge to everybody.
Absolutely. I think that as an integrated behavioral health provider, I had to deal with a lot of situations, crisis interventions, people who are in distress, people who are not at their best, right? So one of the things that I do on a daily basis to take care of myself, I plan for the worst, expecting the best. I know that most likely something's going to happen today that is going to throw me off. Somebody's going to call me a name. Somebody's not going to be happy and they're going to be angry. And it's going to be okay. I'm going to be okay because at the end of the day, that anger, that those words, they're just sort of like a moment in the person's life, and 99% of the time have nothing to do with me. People come to, whether it's you work in a restaurant, you work in the healthcare industry, wherever it is, you don't know what happened before they walk into the doors of your place of employment. Somebody who had a fight with their partner, and then they are waiting for the boss, and they're at the corner, and then the boss passes by because it was 3 minutes earlier, and then they have to wait outside, and then they're late for their appointment, whatever it is. So they're going to be upset. I just happen to be the person they have in front. And I usually recognize that, I understand, and I empathize with how you're feeling, but I'm treating you respectfully. I'm being kind and I'm being professional with you. The only thing I ask is that you treat me the same way. There's nothing wrong with expressing what our needs are, and that's part of self-care. I say it all the time. We deserve, not just need, we deserve respect in every aspect of our lives. And when we're working, it's the same thing. You know, we respect other people. We have to be professional. Sometimes people think, well, I do it because it's my job. Well, yeah, but your job doesn't mean that you have to be a punching bag.
Really, I could not agree more, Julio. Really appreciate that. Really appreciate that.